You're listening to the Naturally Noelle Show, brought to you by Noelle's Naturals, all natural products that really work. And now, please welcome entrepreneur, wife, homeschooling mom of 4, and founder of the Noelle's Naturals brand of products, your host, Noelle Talley.
Hi friends, today I'm talking with Meg Langston, who is a nutritional therapy practitioner, root cause protocol consultant, and restorative wellness practitioner. She works with women to help restore their metabolic health, recover from hormone imbalances, restore healthy periods, and recover digestive function. You're going to learn so much today. Here we go. Okay, Meg, so welcome to the show. I'm so glad you're with us today.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, so let's just kind of jump in with talking about how you got into this field, like what brought you to this specific area of wellness.
Yeah, so I feel like as most practitioners, it really just came from my own story. And it's not like really a unique story by any means, but it is one that I see still playing out in females' lives way more often than it should be. And I grew up a competitive athlete. I played sports, mostly soccer, my entire life. And by the time I got to college, I was trying to figure out, how do I stay healthy? What does that look like? And really fell into kind of dieting in general. I was looking to, I make this same joke on every podcast. So if someone is listening to this podcast that like has heard me, it's the truth though. Like back in 2007, when I was looking for information on how to get healthy, there was no social media. There was no Instagram. Facebook was like kind of a thing, but certainly just like to show pictures, not to get information from. So I went through old school way and looked at, magazines and books. And I remember specifically this book that had a woman with a lime green sports bra. She was holding some celery. She had shredded abs and, yoga pants on. And I was like, okay, that is healthy. And so I started to figure out, from that book, like what defined health to me. And it kind of just warped my brain into thinking it was aesthetics. And so after pursuing diet culture for years, I developed eating disorder and disordered eating habits. So I was afraid to eat things like carrots and fruit because I figured they had too much sugar in them. And just every single thing was defined by how fit I was and how many abs I had showing at the time. And that, of course, led me down a path of, really just cluster of symptoms. So I had experienced anxiety. I was always so worrisome. I remember somebody telling me like, you're so worrisome, but that was never true to who I was. It was just a result of the symptoms I was experiencing. Low thyroid, candida, irregular cycles, missing period. And so through all of that, I actually first found fertility awareness method, and through learning my cycle is really how I began to dive deep into like, oh, my temperature is not normal. Oh, that means low thyroid. That is how I feel with low thyroid. Okay, I need to go to a doctor. Ooh, the doctor's not actually running what this book says to run. Okay, so now I need to go find a functional doctor. Well, the functional doctor is only giving me medicine. Like I'm still not feeling better. Okay, now I need to pursue like what nutrition looks like. And then went back to school, and here I am 5.5 years later of just running my practice, helping women to really optimize health with nutrition and lifestyle. You and I were just talking a little bit about like a slowness in life. That is something that I really, really preach, and that's deep in my heart, is to just find joy and slowness, and in a culture that is pulling at you, how you can just kind of resist that, and honoring your body in that way, everyone, tends to start to feel better. You eat well, you slow down, you have fun, and then bada bing, bada boom. Many of us are super, healthy and happy hormones and living their life. Of course, some people can be more complicated, but that's, the idea of how I start at least the foundational process of working with women.
Yeah, I feel like your story is so similar to mine. And I feel like a lot of us kind of in this sphere, it starts with our own personal journey. And a lot of times, we're failed by conventional medicine, and even a lot of times by, alternative practitioners who don't understand the full picture. And so that's why I love how you talk a lot about root cause and not just putting a Band-Aid on the symptoms and really kind of figuring out what's going on within your own body. Now, so let's talk about sort of like what are the signs and symptoms of hormone dysfunction? Because I know you talked about some that maybe are a surprise to people, like the mood issues, the worrisomeness. I've heard people talk about like the hairline trigger, where you seem to have a temper maybe that you didn't used to have. So what are some of those things that could be telltale signs that you've got an issue going on?
Yeah, I would say that most symptoms come in clusters, and that's what is. Although I am not an anti-conventional person, like I believe that I've been in scenarios where it has benefited our family, but I do think what's potentially lacking in conventional medicine is that it's very organ based. So GI symptoms, only go to a GI doctor. And what I have found and what most people experience is not just like, okay, it's just my GI. It's also that I have extreme PMS. It's also that I have, dry, flaky skin. I'm having a hard time recalling simple words. And it's because our symptoms come in clusters. Our organs are what communicates back and forth with our organs is our hormones. So there are little chemical signals that go from one organ to another, and that's what our hormones are. So they are going to affect different organs in the body, different systems in the body. So some of the things that people may not realize, like that's actually your body talking back, and it's asking for a little bit more support, and not looking at just that symptom, but looking at how we can support the body as a whole, is symptoms like waking up in the middle of the night to pee. That's not normal. That you should go to sleep, easily fall asleep, stay asleep through the night, and wake up and have energy. Of course, moms, nursing moms, things like that, that can kind of wake us up in the middle of the night. But if you are not nursing and you're just, a mom that, or woman, female that is going to sleep, you should not wake up just to pee. That's a sign of dysregulation. You should have a healthy sex drive, especially as ovulation picks up. Your body should be craving sex. So that is a sign of fertility health. You should have cervical mucus. Your period and ovulation should come without any symptoms. So no breast tenderness, no cramping, no clotting, no heavy periods, no headaches. Those are, all signs that, again, our body is showing dysfunction and it needs supports. Like we talked about, worrisome thoughts, extreme anxiety, and you can't figure out what is, going on. Depression when you normally don't have that. Postpartum depression, postpartum anxiety. These are all signs of hormone dysregulation and different organs in the body that need more support.
Wow, I think probably a lot of this, many women just say, that's just part of being a woman. That's just part of getting older. It's just part of having children. It's stressful. How do you kind of understand the difference between environmental factors or just your life and something actually going on physiologically in your body?
Well, I think that what's going on in your life and stress factors, environmentals, is what, really impacts that. So I like to think of the stress bucket theory, which is basically like you kind of think of a little bucket or a big bucket, whatever floats your boat, and you think about this bucket. And as stressors come in your life, so this can actually be from preconception, so grandma's health, mom's health. Maybe you were born a C-section, breastfed, which is fine. You can still optimize health. But if these things start to pile up, this is where it becomes, problematic. So you have, maybe you were, born in the, 80s and 90s, and you had spray butters and, oh gosh, like what was my favorite Bath and Body Works? Like the lemon melon, Bath and Body Works and Juicy Couture. And, you had all those fragrance piled on top of you with the spray butters, and you were afraid of fat. And then you got into a little bit older and you were, practicing diet culture habits of under eating and restriction of nutrients and different macronutrients, or maybe carbs. And that starts to pile up and pile up. And then all of a sudden, boom, it spills into these symptoms of acne and just chronic fatigue and brain fog and autoimmune conditions. And we just are like, what is going on? And it really stems from not only our environment, but also the stressors. And then one thing I touched from the beginning, but didn't just now, is also continuing to go at a pace of life, which Noelle, you and I just chatted about, that is just not conducive to your body. That is again, my just heart for women. If they were to hear anything that they, listen to anything, I probably want them to hear, like, make sure you're pooping every day, support your liver, but also slow down. And that's because it matters so much. I know we're going to try to chat a little bit about minerals and we'll talk about it there, but if our body is burning through minerals too fast, if we're going at a state that our body just can't keep up with, the last thing that the body is going to prioritize is our hormones. It's going to be like, hey, I'm surviving. Like, I'm not trying to produce and have a baby right now.
So, in addition to the things that you just listed, how do like toxins come into play? Like toxins in our products and in our foods and things like that. How is that? Because we all understand that it's bad for us, but what exactly is it doing that's throwing our hormones off?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's different things within, the things that we eat or sprays that we put on our body that can be endocrine disrupting. So they can, and then also endocrine disrupting and have xenoestrogens in there. And so what can happen is it can impair our gut microbiome and the integrity of our gut lining, which can allow for inflammation to happen. It can allow for overgrowth of bad bacteria. Endotoxins can add up in the body, which can make it hard for the liver to clear properly and essentially just overburden the body to not allow the systems to work as optimally as it should be. And I'm totally fine with a toxic product here and there, which may surprise a lot of people. But like, I do get my hair a balayage twice a year. And when I go out, I use hairspray. I use toxic hairspray. I tried for my whole life, not my whole life. I've tried for years now to try a really good toxic hairspray, and I just can't find one. So it's not that you necessarily, although if you can, that's great, but it's not necessarily that you have to be fearful or eliminate everything in, the toxic world. But it does matter to be really strategic and not overburden our body. There is too much, of a bad thing or a good thing or bad thing. And if we are constantly choosing, the detergents that we use, the makeups that we use, the deodorants that we use, yours is my favorite, by the way. I'm actually wearing that, not even lying. It's right over there. Just the different, what else can there be? Air conditioning units, plugins in the walls, cleaning products. All of these can bombard our body and become, just disruptive to the endocrine system. Anytime you put your body in a state of stress and alert, the best scenario, there's no other better way to say it. You've heard it a million times, but if you're running from a bear, your body's not going to be like, hold on a second. I really need to focus on balancing my hormones right now. So it's not going to do that. If it's bombarded and it feels stressed and attacked, then it is going to not prioritize balancing hormones. Estrogen can become in excess. Progesterone can lower with thyroid. And then you can experience the symptoms like, in your cycle, spotting, heavy, bleeding, anxiety, irritability, mood swings. All of those can happen just by being bombarded with the toxins that we are consuming on a regular basis.
So let's talk a little bit about estrogen dominance, because you kind of touched on it a little bit. And that seems to be kind of like the big one that most women are struggling with. Why is it that one specifically?
Yeah, I think this is a really big conversation. I know that you had put this in the notes and I was like, how am I going to answer this? But the truth is, I know people will talk about, hey, we can't forget about low estrogen, but one of the things that I know you wanted to chat about today was a little bit on iron overload. And I think it's important to know that when estrogen actually works it operates in the body as an antioxidant. So when there's inflammation, it can go where inflammation is, right? It can go, it's an antioxidant. It's going to try to reduce the inflammation. So that's one of the ways, is that estrogen will go towards like if we talked about iron overload, iron can get stuck in the macrophages, which is the immune system, the liver, in the gut. Estrogen's going to go to the tissues, which can contribute to these high estrogen symptoms. In addition to that, if we have poor gut health, then the body has a enzyme called B-glucuronidase, and it goes through the process of glucuronidation. And if our body is not the minerals are not supporting this enzyme from working optimally, or a body is not able to properly break down estrogen in the body, then we're also going to get excess estrogen. What causes B-glucuronidase, this enzyme that breaks down estrogen in the gut properly, to malfunction? Dysbiosis, overgrowth of bad bacteria, will actually inhibit this enzyme from working optimally. That causes excess estrogen. If our liver is stressed because we have blood sugar dysregulation, so we're not able to eat we're not eating as properly as we should be. Maybe we're undernourished. Maybe we're leaving out macronutrients. Maybe we're just under eating in macronutrients, period. Then what's going to happen is that's going to put stress on the liver, because the liver is part of bringing glucose into the body. It's part of converting glucose to be utilized for energy. So it's going to burden the liver, which is going to not allow estrogen to clear the body, or estrogen to clear in the body as well as it should be. So now we're up to, we talked about mineral status. We talked about the B-glucuronidase being supported, and digestion and overgrowth. We talked about the liver not working as optimally as we should be. Many women are not as fit as we should be, and I know that's a hard I don't know, it can feel alarming to hear that, but if we have a lot more fat cells to us, we're going to have more estrogen. And I would say it's not necessarily cultural for Americans to really prioritize the proper rest and training. And we either go into crazy hard, which it sounds like you and I did, or some Americans are just not prioritizing health in general, right? We're eating a little bit of more junk food. Or again, even if we were to stress our thyroid out and put on weight, estrogen can get stuck on that. So we have to ask ourselves what, is stressing out the thyroid. So there are so many more ways, in my opinion, that we can become excess we can have excess estrogen or estrogen dominant in our bodies. I talked briefly about that thyroid. If thyroid is lowered, which so many things can lower the thyroid, and we can go into that if you want, but that's going to lower progesterone. You have to have 20 times more progesterone than estrogen in order to oppose it. So that's going to lead the body back into imbalances, causing a lot of these symptoms. Histamine, right? If we have all these mineral loss, we don't support histamine the way that we should be. So then histamine increases estrogen increases histamine. All of these things are going to cause estrogen dominance.
Yeah. And we'll talk about this at the end of the show, but I want to, for the person right now whose head is spinning, who's like, oh my God, what do I do? You do offer one-on-one coaching, which I feel like at this level of complexity, it's not something that you can just kind of like blindly look at someone's feed and be like, okay, cool, this supplement, eat this food, do this thing, and I'll be good. It's so very specific to each person and your journey and what you've been through and what your obstacles are. So that's where that one-on-one coaching, I feel like, really does kind of come into play, because yes, there are a lot of things that you can do on your own to take your health back into your own hands, but there's a lot of things that we just don't understand. We're not going to know which questions to ask. And I think that's where, what you provide is so very helpful for the person who's like, okay, yes, I hear this. I'm having all of these symptoms. I have no idea what to do. You can really help to point them in the right direction.
Yeah, I think that one-on-one is really wonderful, because you can look at testing like the GI map. One of the things I have in my practice is they show the beta-glucuronidase. We show how well you're breaking down that phase 2 of estrogen detoxification. You can see in the hair tissue mineral analysis, which is obviously a mineral status, to see, well, your body's just in a huge state of stress, or your calcium's really high. It's inhibiting thyroid. That's leading to imbalances. Iron dysregulation in your HDMA is, something that we need to address. So it can be very, very helpful to do one-on-one because it can get you specific, testing. But I would say, like, also, if you're like, Meg, I looked at your pricing. It's very, I don't have that. I only have like $100 to spend. Also, just getting outside, like doing the simple things we forget to do. Like, again, you and I chatted just so much about like you adjusting your life into slowing down. You're like, this isn't working for me. Like, I need to slow down. And so, like, just getting outside, slowing down where you can, having a specific scheduled in rest day, whether that means as a family or as an individual, you are choosing a day of rest. And that means like a full, break from screens and outside time. You're reading, you're calming your nervous system back down. You're just focusing on eating enough balanced meals, protein, carbs, and fat, eating enough of, fruits and root vegetables and variety of proteins. So although I am a firm believer, it's also how, I run my practice, is doing one-on-ones. I 100% believe that it is a fantastic choice to really figure out, how we can bring your body back into balance. It doesn't have to be the only option. You can also just start slow and make little changes. And I am sure that even just little changes that we talked about could probably make huge differences for you, including getting outside. Again, I can't say that enough. Most of us don't actually get enough time outside. And when we do, it's for like 30 minutes to let our kids outside. And even then, they're not getting enough time outside. So it should be like, if we can push it an hour as an adult to get that much time out, or longer with our kids, like an hour to 3 hours would be optimal for supporting vitamin D levels, hormone levels, melatonin levels, and serotonin, and all the things, all the tonins.
Yeah, we actually did an episode last season with Jenny Urich with 1,000 Hours Outside, and what she's doing is so cool. And it's about making the commitment to spend 1,000 hours a year outside with your kids. And she's got a whole breakdown of how to do that, how many hours per day. And, if you live somewhere that's super cold, okay, you're going to do less time outside on those days. But then when it's really nice out, you do more time. In Florida, it's like summertime is when we stay inside. And, right now when it's 60 degrees outside, that's when the kids are out until the mosquitoes come and we're like, okay, come in for dinner. But yeah, that makes a huge difference. And it's countercultural. It's inconvenient. It's definitely a lot easier to throw your kids on a screen and, just do things inside. And, it takes time because if you have younger kids, you have to be outside with them. You have to be supervising them. And that's hard because you have to put aside what you had planned to.
No, you're great. I think you're so spot on that. And I know this is kind of going a different way, but it's such an important conversation that it can require more work, but everything requires more work when you're first starting out, when you're first meal planning, right? To learn, okay, these are really easy meals that my family loves that are go-tos. It requires work to show up, to go to the gym, or to get movement in outside of, your daily rhythm of life. It takes, it takes effort to make sure that you're doing castor oil packs or taking supplements if you need to. And so it's really just kind of like really stretching the body to get into a new rhythm of life that I have found to be like the hardest thing. And then the best thing I've ever read, I just finished this book maybe a month ago. And it was about a European mother, and her motto was, her motto was, there's no such thing as bad weather, only bad clothes. And that just stuck with me. I'm like, yes, like I have to be prepared just as much as I prepare my kids. So if my kids are wearing 6 layers because it's that cold out, I also have to do that. And as a result, it's like everyone walks in, like one as a mom, you're like, I just created the best memories. And like, oh my gosh, look at my kid being so creative. Like this is the best feeling, because our bodies crave it. Our bodies crave it. And so, yeah, I love that I have to go back and listen to that podcast, because I just, I feel like it's very, like you said, countercultural and an absolute need for, if we're thinking about period health, we got to think about getting outside as well.
Yeah, for sure. So I do want to talk about minerals because, I had we're going back to all the podcasts from last season. I talked with Corey Malloy last season and just talked about how I had no idea that minerals came into play with hormones at all. Like that was just completely mind-blowing new information to me. And I mean, everyone knows, okay, vitamins and minerals are good. You need them. But nobody anywhere in any type of schooling or education explains why. And so let's go into that a little bit, why it's important, and then also how to best get the minerals that we need.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's very, I would say even in like NTP school, it's not something that we necessarily like focus on. We certainly had a section of it, but didn't really focus on it. But they're so important. As I mentioned, um, enzymes are really what kind of make the signal the body into doing many things. So, enzymes help with digestion. They help with converting cholesterol into vitamin D. They help with converting thyroid hormone. They help with just so many things in the body. And what runs enzymes? Minerals. Minerals are crucial for getting hormones to behave properly and work optimally. And the reason why they can be so important is because they run hormones. There's really actually no other better way to say it. And so what can happen is we can become deficient in minerals. So there's a couple different ways, of course. It starts with stress, the number one thing. And whether that's trauma, whether that is from, again, going at a pace of life that's too busy for you. So you're in that high cortisol state. I call cortisol glasses. Everything is like, gotta get this done, gotta go to the grocery store, gotta get, oh my gosh, the kids, St. Patrick's Day party, everything is very heightened, go, 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 go. That's in a state of stress. Under eating is in a state of stress. So lots of things that can cause the stress. And what happens when the body's under stress is minerals are the first to go. So magnesium specifically, magnesium runs over 42% of every enzymatic function in the body, which just, again, basically means like how well the body's working. So when we're deficient in minerals, what we can feel is things like chronic fatigue. We can go into hypothyroid. We can go into hyperthyroid. Actually, a lack of copper can actually cause somebody to go into hyperthyroid. It's crucial for getting the body to work optimally in general. One of the bigger things that I see in my practice is the levels between sodium and potassium just being completely altered because we're in the state of stress. Which again, when our body's in a state of stress, what it does is there is a hormone called pregnenolone, and pregnenolone can either pursue cortisol or it can pursue progesterone. And when our sodium potassium are so low and our adrenals are not able to function optimally, our thyroid is not able to function optimally, then it's going to cause our body to continue to produce these stress hormones versus hormones like progesterone. The interesting thing about minerals is that it can actually show how well cells are utilizing things that blood panels may not. When you get to blood panels and your minerals are off, that's like you're sick. It's alert. Like that's a huge issue. So in a hair tissue mineral analysis, you can start to see the dysfunction before it goes to really severe. A good example is like thyroid, the typical thyroid. Like I did my blood panel, it's normal. It's even normal within functional standards. What a blood panel is not going to show is how well your thyroid, your cells are utilizing this thyroid hormone, calcium, potassium. That's one that is massive for the thyroid. So I'll see people with really high calcium and potassium looking at their blood chemistry. And yeah, functionally in their labs, it looks like we did a full thyroid panel, looks okay. But when we actually see the cells, we're like, the cells are actually not utilizing calcium and potassium as well as they should be. And so therefore we know we need to start looking into why is the thyroid not working optimally? What's going on with other minerals in the body that can actually show, okay, there's things off. When calcium goes really high, it inhibits thyroid hormone. Again, sodium, potassium be really low, really affects the adrenals. Body's in a high state of stress. Boron really low affects the stress of the body. When our cobalt is really high, it shows that we're not digesting our food well. So I think that the biggest takeaway from like understanding how crucial minerals are to the body is just that they play a role from every system of the body and getting the body to communicate and utilize hormones well, right? So it doesn't matter what your blood panels say. If actually it gets in the blood panel, you're usually sicker. So starting at the mineral and supporting minerals first is going to be the biggest thing. You can do that by using, some of my favorites are like the multi-minerals, like a shilajit or a fulvic acid. Those have like 84 different minerals in there. They're really great. I wouldn't take them if you are not breastfeeding, if you're pregnant and have not taken it prior, but for the most part, it's great for everybody. And really focusing on just, again, a variety of different proteins. Organ meats is really wonderful. Shellfish, oh my gosh, talk about iron overload. You need a lot of copper and also retinol, but copper in order to make, retinol, or in order to make copper available in the body. Copper runs every enzyme in the body except for 4. So it is crucial, 4 to 6. So it's really, really important. So more than anything, it's getting in a variety of proteins in fruits. Things like the adrenal cocktail can do really good. But what's really cool about the HTMA is you can actually see if somebody has high calcium, high magnesium, their blood sugar may be off. They actually may hear online, I don't know why people are saying adrenal cocktail is so great. It actually makes me feel terrible. Well, that's because your blood sugar is really high. You may actually not do well with that orange juice that everyone's talking about. You may do better with a different, like a lemon or something like that, or a different water, or you may do better when it's paired with meals. So it's really, really awesome to see, especially in a hair tissue mineral analysis, to see where your mineral status is at. But in all, just getting a variety of protein in, again, shellfish, fish, not just chicken and beef liver, organs, if you can, crucial. If you can put minerals back into your water, like salt, trace minerals is a great option. Eating, not limiting foods, to like, again, dairy products are really high in retinol. That's really needed for copper. And vitamins and minerals work synergistically together often. So to get variety is the biggest key of all. That's why I'm not a fan of elimination diets. Or healing diets. It's like, no, let's get the body let's mitigate what's going on in the GI tract, get the body to calm back down, and really just flood the body with a variety of nutrients as much as possible.
So let's talk briefly about birth control, because I know that's a really hot button issue because a lot of things are at play. One, you mentioned the mineral depletion. 2, you've got the additional iron in the iron pills. Some women are, taking it back to back and not having a period at all. So they're, not eliminating iron through their normal menstrual cycle. And so there's a lot of things there that can cause a ruckus. Speak to that.
Yeah. So I feel like for so long, I just only dogged on birth control. And I think it's because my heart is to empower women and for women to know that there is a choice. But I certainly wouldn't do well if when I thought I was doing something good, someone just attacked me. So like if someone's on birth control, I certainly wouldn't want them to feel like as if I'm attacking. I'd really want you to feel informed by what I'm saying and be able to make a choice. If birth control right now is the best option for you because you're using it for preventative purposes, I would say, hey, look into fertility awareness method. But beyond that, okay, fine. But I do want you to understand the repercussions that it can have on a female body and be able to make, choices. Maybe you're not on it as long. Now, if you're on it for symptom management because your care team, your practitioners thought that was the only way to get rid of your acne or your heavy bleeding, I would say that's just absolutely not true. And you can actually be doing more harm to your body than benefit. You mentioned one of the first things, not bleeding, right? Not ovulating, right? So when you have a pill bleed, it's actually not a true period because the only way to have a true period is by ovulating each month. That's what brings on a true period. They had women, when birth control was first out. There's so many books on the history of birth control. I think it was Your Brain on Birth Control or something like that, that book. But there's lots of different books that give the history of birth control. And it's so interesting. At first, the pill never had a period bleed. And then women felt very uneasy on that because naturally you feel uneasy that you're not bleeding. So then they put in this artificial bleed where your uterine line will, shed and create a bleed, but it's not a true period. There's no progesterone being, going high or going low. And that really impacts the thyroid. That can inhibit the gut. So as we talked about previously, when your gut microbiome is altered in any capacity, that can inhibit thyroid. It can inhibit B-glucuronidase from working optimally. The pill alters your gut microbiome. So actually, it's Dr. Jolene Brighton that had spoke to one of our classes, and she had given the information that it has been compared, the birth control pill has been compared to antibiotic use, and people are taking antibiotic use, aka the pill, for 6 years, 7 years, 12 years or longer for the symptom management, not knowing the repercussions that it has on your gut microbiome. It's destroying the good beneficial bacteria. We are 10 to 1 bacteria. We are more bacteria than we are human cells. It is crucial for us to have enough beneficial bacteria in order for us to fight against, leaky gut or the permeability of your gut walls, for us to feed other, beneficial bacteria to survive, neurotransmitters to support them, and how our body communicates with our emotions and our needs. When we're on the birth control pill, we become deficient and lost a lot of minerals, right? Minerals like copper, minerals like folate, other B vitamins, zinc. All of these are so crucial, as we talked about, for getting the hormones to start behaving and working the way that they should be. And so my biggest thing is that, one, as a child, we're not as a child. Well, I guess, yeah, as a child, when we're first getting our period, we're not taught, hey, this is what your periods look like. Maybe you don't have to know that, the whole what FSH and LH is and surges of whatever, but we should know, one, cervical mucus is normal. You should have cervical mucus. You are not, having this crazy weird reaction, which I think most women are like, what is this? And they're too embarrassed to talk about. But we should have some education on when our periods are, what ovulation is, what periods are. You can't get, pregnant every day of the month. You're not going to get pregnant and die, like Mean Girl says. We should have some education. And because we don't, we get put on birth control because we think that's the only way to prevent pregnancies, but that's just not the case. And also, again, speaking of the most often times that I am hearing people on birth controls because they were on Accutane, so they had to get on birth control, or they were trying to prevent skin issues, or they were or clear up skin issues, or prevent this crazy period that was just, stopping them from living their everyday life, when in reality, one, they're really young, so their hormones are still trying to regulate, and most of it is nutrition at home. But two, our bodies are talking back in symptoms. It is saying, it's your monthly report card. I say this often, but women have a superior, we may be more superior because of the power that we have, which is our monthly report card, our period. It lets us know how healthy we are or where we need to support our body more differently. Yeah. In the birth control, it's especially as symptom management, then we're really inhibiting our other systems in our body from also working. Our body works together as a whole. If one system is not working optimally, just like I said about the GI doctor, you can't just go to the GI doctor. It's going to affect other systems in the body, and it's going to come up in a lot of different ways, not just, fatigue or feeling anxiety. It's going to come up and cause other areas to not work as optimally as they should.
Wow. I feel like we have just scratched the surface of so many things, and I have so many more questions, but we're running out of time. So one, I for sure have to have you back because we have a lot more work to do. And two, let's take some time to talk about how you can help people. So talk about what you offer, what you have available, and how people can find you.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, so I do one-on-one. I think you heard that. You can find me right now. I really just run my business on Instagram, Meg at Meg Langston, and I do a lot on my email list. So if you go to meglangston.com, you can subscribe to my email list. I am launching a group coaching. We're hoping for mid-April. And it's all going to be about fixing your period. So it's going to be talking about, minerals, gut health, and liver detoxification. And it's going to be all the ways that I work one-on-one with women on supporting a healthy menstrual cycle. We're going to talk about fertility awareness method, what is a normal cycle, when you should be having cervical mucus, when you shouldn't be having cervical mucus, spotting, PMS symptoms during ovulation, all the things. So in my group coaching, that's what I'm most excited about right now, because I'm going to be able to help out a lot more women in that way. And then at the end of the year, stay tuned. I have, if you are kind of intrigued by my heart for just slowing down, finding joy, scheduling that in, then I am really working on just a passion project that I'm hoping to launch by the end of the year. And I'm hoping it just meets a lot of women where they're at and just really being present and enjoying their life again. So not really, as much period or nutrition related, but also so period and nutrition related.
It's all related. That's the thing. Like, as I've been going through, all the different people I've talked to on this podcast, and like last week we talked to somebody about thyroid health, and even we talked to someone about parenting this season, and it all is connected, how busy we let ourselves be, or how we let our attitude, get into a negative space. Like, I think over the last generation or two, there's just been this compartmentalization, as you kind of referred to that earlier within conventional medicine, that everything is separated. And even like as we try to supplement things, I know like during the pandemic, everyone was like, oh, you need zinc, take zinc. And so people just started blindly supplementing zinc, having no idea that was depleting their copper levels. And now that's actually like lowering their immune system. And like all these things, they're so interrelated, and we are all interrelated, and we're all connected. And what I'm starting to piece together is that this is all just so connected. And that's why it's just so important that we are really being mindful of what we're allowing in our minds and what we're allowing in our bodies. And I mean, that's like our motto as a company. We're trying to empower women to, ditch toxic everything, toxic thought patterns, toxic deodorant, toxic skincare, toxic, pharmaceutical medications. And I mean, obviously sometimes we need them, but as much as we can sort of ditch all these toxic things and just kind of get back to simplicity and basics, I think that's where we're really going to find balance.
Totally agree. That's so good. Well said.
I didn't mean to take the last word. I wanted you to have the last word. What's your last word? What do you want to say?
You want me to have that was so well said. If you want me to have a last word, I would say totally agree that was well said. And also just do the best you can every day. I think it can get so overwhelming in the health space where sometimes it feels like, I don't have, the money for a water filter right now. And, I can't afford everything. No big deal. Don't get stressed out. You just do the best you can every single day. And when something goes out, replace it with something, you can. Listen, less is more. And the more that you can just step away from even learning sometimes and actually just be present in your own life and get outside and have fun with your family and loved ones and make memories, the healthier you're actually going to be. And so I know that's a hard, that can feel really loaded when you're like, but I actually don't feel good and I'm not pooping. But, part of the ways that we heal is actually really pushing ourselves to be present. And that can look like serving other people. That can look like, again, just going for a walk as a family. That can look like just laying on our floor and allowing our nervous system to calm back down. But little changes over time of, like Noelle said, going toxic free with all the negative thoughts and everything. And again, even sometimes just the learning and slowing down from there. I think you'll be in a good place. What I would really hope that you hear is that it doesn't have to be so extreme. It really can be small but very informative decisions that can ultimately, lead your health. We're no longer just being told what to do. We're making decisions, but they don't have to be tossed in the wind and kind of all crazy. They can be nice and simple and go back to the basics.
Thanks so much for tuning in to the Naturally Noelle Show, empowering you to live a more natural life, one step at a time.